Aswan. From Aswan, Vishwadhahu took his birth. From Vishwa he came a son named Prasenajit. From Prasenajit came Takshaka. And from Takshaka came Brihadbala, who was killed in a fight by your father. All these kings in the dynasty of Ikshwaku have passed away. Now please listen as I describe the kings who will be born in the future. From Brihadbala will come Brihadrana. The son of Brihadrana will be Urukriya, who will have a son named Vatsavridha. Vatsavridha will have a son named Prativyomna, and Prativyomna will have a son named Bhanu, from whom Divaka, the great commander of soldiers, will take birth. Thereafter, Divaka will come a son named Sahadev, and from Sahadev, a great hero named Brihadashva. And from Brihadashva will come Vanuman, and from Vanuman will come Pratikshva. The son of Pratikshva will be Supratika. And in 5,000 years, Sahadev Das will give a class about these verses. That's text 13. So yeah, now let's go over to text 6. So Savaste Yoga Siddha. Kalapa Gramam Astita. Kalerante Surya Vamsham. Nashtam Bhavayita Puna.
Sosavaste Yoga Siddha.
Sosavaste Yoga Siddha. Kalapa Astita.
Kalerante Surya Vamsham.
Kalerante Surya Vamsham.
Nashtam Bhavyayita Puna.
Nashtam Bhavyayita Puna. Sosavaste Yoga Siddha. Kalapa Astita.
Kalerante Surya Vamsham.
Kalerante Surya Vamsham. Nashtam Bhavyayita Puna. Sosavaste Yoga Siddha. Kalpagramam Astadita. Kalerante Surya Vamsham. Nashtam Bhavyayita Puna. Word for word together? Okay. Sa, he, Asau, the personality known as Maru. Aste, still existing. Yoga Siddha, perfection in the power of mystic yoga. Kalpagramam, the place named Kalpagrama. Astita, he is still living there. Kale, of this Kali Yuga. Ante, at the end. Surya Vamsham, descendants of the sun god Nashtam, after being lost. Bhavyayata, Maru will be getting the sun. Puna, again. Translation together? Yeah. Having achieved perfection in the power of mystic yoga, Maru still lives in a place known as Kalapagrama. At the end of Kali Yuga, he will revive the lost Surya dynasty by begetting a son. Purport, we read that one together or delegate it to someone? Oh, would anyone like to read the purport? Go for it.
At least 5,000 years ago, Srila Shukadev Goswami ascertained the existence of Maru in Kalpagrama and said that Maru, having achieved a Yoga Siddha body, would continue to exist until the end of Kali Yuga, which is calculated to continue for 4,32,000 years. Such is the perfection of mystic power. By controlling the breath, the perfect yogi can continue his life for as long as he likes. Sometimes we hear from the Vedic literatures that some personalities from the Vedic age, such as Vyasadeva and Ashwatthama, are still living. Here we understand that Maru is also still living. We are sometimes surprised that a mortal body can live for such a long time. The explanation of this longevity is given here by the word yoga siddha. If one becomes perfect in the practice of yoga, he can live as long as he likes. The demonstration of some fulfilling yoga siddha does not constitute perfection. Here is a factual example of perfection. A yoga siddha can live as long as he likes.
Jai Prabhupada. Okay. So another prediction from Shukadev Goswami in the Bhagavatam. This whole chapter actually, like he was just saying earlier, or was it in a verse or two ago? Yeah, in text 9, all these kings in the dynasty of Ikshwaku have passed away. Now please listen as I describe the kings who will be born in the future. From Brihadbala will come, and then he goes on to say, so yeah, all these kings that are yet to be born, and this child that's yet to be born at the end of Kali Yuga, amongst other things are predictions that appear in the Bhagavatam. So it's a very unique text in the sense that it contains these predictions of the future, some of which we can verify are actually happened. For instance, in the 11th canto, I'm sure you all are aware of the very famous verse predicting Lord Chaitanya, which goes, yeah.
Krishna Varnam Kusa Krishna Sangopam Rashtra Parshanam Nadyaya Sankirtana Praya Vajati Sumedasa.
And the translation?
In this age of Kali, intelligent people will worship the incarnation of Godhead, who is golden, who appears in a golden form along with his associates, and worship him by Sankirtan.
Yeah, so it's very clear. That's already happened. Lord Chaitanya has already appeared, and now we're here worshiping him, which is a very amazing thing. You know, it's also very amazing that somehow every day there's every Bhagavatam class I've been in, there's enough people that everyone gets to say each line, like of the verse when you're chanting, and it doesn't like carry over. Like, how does that happen? What do you do when it's like it ends with one person, but then there's like 2 lines left in the verse?
This is happening since last week.
Really? Wow, that's been perfect.
When that happens, we recite the last line altogether.
All together. Okay, very nice. So, yeah, speaking of doing things all together, I would like to hear from you all how the Stovo speaking of worshipping. Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Speaking of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement, you all attended a very lovely Kirtan festival last night, so I'd like to hear if anyone would like to share some reflections. It can be short or long, whatever you like. I'd like to hear from you all how it was.
We danced for like 4 hours.
Okay, nice.
Non-stop.
Any like particular highlights for anyone?
Hey, what?
Particular highlights or moments that you really liked from last night?
So, there was a point when Sundar Chaitanya Maharaj, he stood up and he was just very lost in ecstasy, and he was just closing his eyes and he was smiling, and his smile was perfect. Like, it just like could light up rooms. And then in ecstasy he took his garland out and then he's like this.
Yes, we get it.
Ah, Jai.
And then he just like jumped up and down and he had this big smile on his face. And the same happened in the last kirtan also when Bibi Govinda Maharaj was singing. And at the very end, I think to honor Sundar Chaitanya Maharaj when he came, they started singing his melody, which he usually sings. And then the crowd went crazy. And then he was also smiling and jumping and laughing. I just was very excited to see his smile.
Nice. Anyone else?
They did the Rajaka Katana.
Oh yeah,
They
nice.
ended before that, and we thought like the kirtan ended, and then Maharaj was like, okay, on special request we are going to sing Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah,
We went for another half an hour.
yeah. That's all?
So after the end of the kirtan,
Nice.
He
Yeah.
said at least 2 times if someone doesn't have beads, just get it as soon as possible.
Wow.
Fashion, like,
Wow. Intensity. The intensity of these devotees for their desire for other people to take up Krishna consciousness and be happy. That's amazing. Yeah. We did our best to try to do some book distribution at the Guelph Cultural Festival, but and it was a good time, but it was a little crowded. There were like 5 devotees at the book table, and it was just too many hands on deck, too many cooks in the kitchen. They say spoils the dish that you're making. So we ended up leaving, and we picked up some books and came back to Bhakti Academy. So, who is the sannyasi who was begging again? You said, like asking very Bibi Govinda Swami. Okay, yeah. I've been reflecting on this a lot lately. Like, why do we even practice Krishna consciousness in the first place? What attracted me to Krishna consciousness? And something that came to mind was, whenever in the past you've seen, different kinds of media, television, movies, read books, and you kind of disagree with the author, disagree with the artist. You're like, I wish they would have changed this. I wish it would have ended in this way. Or I like this song, but I wish this part was longer, and I wish they took out the other part. But with Krishna Lila, it's not like that. And you're never thinking, oh, I wish Krishna, didn't kill those demons. I wish he wasn't so beautiful, or I wish he was like green instead of blue. I guess Lord Ram is green, and then Varaha is red, Mahaprabhu is golden, so all the colors are there, actually. I wish he had shorter hair. No one's ever wishing Krishna to look differently or act differently, his associates to be different, because it's perfect. Krishna Lila is perfect, and by hearing about the qualities, pastimes, chanting the names, and seeing the forms, hearing descriptions of the forms of the Lord, you actually get real happiness, because it's coming from a perfect source. It's coming from Krishna, as opposed to other kinds of entertainment that we seek in this world, which we can end up disagreeing with the artist, the creator of such a thing. Like, oh, I could have done it better myself. But we can't say that about the Bhagavatam. Oh, please go ahead, Brihat.
Comment?
Oh yeah, please comment.
What you said is true, and Krishna manifests himself according to the desire of his devotees.
Yeah.
So some devotees do say, man, I wish I could relate with God as a fish. And he says, great, I'm Matsya.
Yeah.
I wish I could relate with God as my supreme, almighty, opulent protector. Here I am as Vishnu. I wish I could just wrestle with God in the spiritual world. All right, I'm your friend. So in that sense, Krishna will change his form, his character. He'll manifest himself according to our desire.
Yeah, that's a great point. According to the desire of the devotee, Krishna reciprocates perfectly. So it's more nuanced, it's more complex than that. Yeah, even in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is a text by Sanatana Goswami that takes place after, it's a conversation between Uttara, the mother of Maharaj Parikshit, and Parikshit's son, right? And Parikshit and his mother, Uttara. She asks him basically, can you tell me the essence of what Shukadev Goswami told you? And then they have this whole another dialogue, which is really amazing. And it describes, in the second part of the book, the story of Gopakumar, who is this cowherd boy from Vrindavan, like in the material world, Gokula, and his journey basically throughout the whole universe, and then eventually going to the Vaikuntha planets and then to Vrindavan, reuniting with Krishna. And when he was in the Vaikuntha planets, he was describing all of the things that he saw there, and it was really, really far out stuff. Like, there are the 4 kinds of liberation, and one of them, Sarupa, is that what it's called? When
Yeah.
Sarupya, where you have the same form as your worshipable deity, is Narayan. In Vaikuntha, a lot of devotees have 4 arms because they have that form of liberation. But there are also some that look like Nrsingadev, actually. There's some that are like half man, half lion. And there are some that have bodies like Varaha or Matsya or Kurma. This is described in the Bhagavatamrita that, yeah, these devotees, they have the same kinds of bodily forms as these different avatars. And Krishna appears in all animal species of life, all of the different 8,400,000 species. So the variety of spiritual enjoyment is completely unlimited. And compared to material enjoyment, which, as we've all experienced and understand, is very limited. And this is why our impetus to come here to Bhakti Academy or Krishna House or whatever Sangha you're a part of, to try to develop our attraction for devotional service and continue to grow and such things. So I would like to open it up a little bit for a discussion, if you would all like to participate. And we could also end early. I know a lot of us have probably most of our japa to complete. So yeah, if anyone has any comments or reflections, feel free to share. Please.
So like, when the Shuddhanam, like whose sadhana is so good, and they do the kirtan, so it's really difficult to stop you from dancing. So we have experienced it a lot whenever some good people come, like even in the morning, breath whenever we were singing. So even though we were really, really tired, still we were like, okay, let's do. Who is singing, let's do. You know, we can feel that connection in the song. So we tried to dance at that time. And even yesterday, everyone was so tired. Like, when we went there, Maharaj was singing, Bhakti Swami Maharaj. So everyone was like, and we went and Maharaj did the speed up his kirtan. And then everyone was dancing. Then again, Yogendra Prabhu sang. And then same, everyone was dancing at the same time. And then there was a break. After that, when Bhakti Swami Maharaj came, for at least I think so 2.5 hours, everyone was dancing like with full of energy. You on stage, different moves. And association of Bhakti Academy at that time, it was like everyone was like so much into dancing, too much ecstasy there. So it was so much of fun. What did you if you were happy?
Next time, yeah.
They're going today at 8 p.m.
I'm sorry? Oh, great, perfect. Yeah, nice, it's contagious, yeah,
I
Viraj.
would say that you have a sleeping time at 8:30 usually, but if you can stay up for the season, it really we could have the center of your company.
Yeah, I'd love to go, definitely. Oh yeah, please.
I was thinking that in relation to this purport, in verse, we're hearing about mystic perfections. They're called siddhis. So it literally means perfection. And Prabhupada explains that this is not perfection. They're not siddhi, really. One who attains some power. Even being able to live for hundreds and thousands of years, or you can create an entire planet. Like there's unimaginable power you can get. But the real perfection, I was thinking, is Shuddhanam, is chanting and having attraction for Krishna. You were saying that we're here in Bhakti Academy to develop some attraction for Krishna. And that's real perfection. Some sit here, Hari Koshana, to have this mood of, I just want to please Krishna. That's actually, Bhagavad
Yeah. Yeah, real perfection. Nice. Thank you, Prabhu.
I also have some similar question. That it is mentioned that Vyasdev and Ashwatthama, they are still alive, and they, because of they got the Yoga Siddhi, that's why they can have the mystic powers and they can control the duration of life. And at the transition is mentioned that at the end of Kali Yuga, he will revive the lost Surya dynasty by getting a son. So they gave the whole, like from the first words number 1 to 11, they mention the name of the sons. So does it mean that they also mention about the present son also? Like who is the present son who is staying right now?
Yeah. You wanna?
I think it says Manu.
What verse was that from?
We read in the translations.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure. I got assigned these verses this morning, so I haven't had enough. And I haven't read the section of the Bhagavatam, so I'm not the authority to determine that. Rohan Prabhu, I'm sorry. There's an interesting story about Ashwatthama I could tell briefly. A devotee from Michigan told it to me about a month or two ago. There was this mountain climber in the Himalayas, and he got lost from his group, and he was going to die. He was like stranded in some part of the Himalayan mountains, and he saw this huge figure approach him, and he was about to die. He was very close to death, and this figure approached him. He blacked out, and he woke up. And this guy was carrying him, and he was very big, and he said, "What's your name?" And then the guy said, "I'm Ashwatthama." And then he was like, bringing him to some safe location. And then Ashwatthama told this gentleman, "If you let anyone know who I am, like who saved you, like I'm going to destroy you." And then the gentleman is saved. He goes back to a camp and goes back home to wherever. And then obviously he reports, "Yeah, I got saved by some guy named Ashwatthama." And then in the newspaper, like later, it was showing that he had been dismembered in his house. Yeah, he was like really gruesomely killed.
What's the purport?
The purport is that, yeah, Ashwatthama's still alive, basically. I heard that from Madhavendra Puri Prabhu in Michigan, so that's my source. Take it with a grain of salt. I don't have any of the actual, exact references, but yeah. Okay, any other thoughts, devotees? Very hot.
Can you share more on, we didn't touch much on the purport.
Okay.
This idea of long life, and like it seems in this world, most people are focused on just getting some material perfections, be it yogic or just very gross. People will do plastic surgery,
Oh yeah.
or fake tanning, and people are so focused on just enhancing the abilities and the enjoyment of the body. And Prabhupada is saying that at the end, if you scroll down there, that these trifling things are not perfection.
Yeah.
So can you talk on more on what is perfection?
Okay. Yeah.
Because Prabhupada doesn't say, he just says
This is not
but he doesn't
perfection.
say what it actually is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as we all know, but it's always great to be reminded every day in lectures and classes and readings that pure love of Krishna is perfection, and attaining that by serving Krishna's devotees and chanting attentively and preaching. Those are the three things, yeah. Jiva Doya, being merciful to other living entities, and Vaishnav Seva, yeah. And then chanting. Namruchi? Taste for chanting. Where do those three items come from? In the CC. Okay, Briha will try to find the reference. So those three things are perfection if we have taste for chanting and we engage ourselves in Vaishnava Seva and we have compassion for other living entities, then actually we can achieve perfection and be happy. Without these things, without Krishna consciousness, the happiness we experience in this world, the perfections that we experience, whether you can create a planet or you can make yourself smaller than the smallest or bigger than the biggest or any other mystic perfection or any other material boon you get, you're very wealthy, you're very strong, you're very attractive, any opulence, etc. Those all go away in a matter of seconds, really. It'll feel like seconds. And then you'll be left with nothing again except your karma. And you'll have to just suffer more, take another birth, which is really painful, go through grade school again, go through puberty again, get your heart broken again several times, however, whatever is being dictated to you by your karma, basically. And get diseases, get cold, get hot, growing pains, and get old and die. All those things are happening constantly. And there's no hope that you're going to get any relief from it, basically, without turning to Krishna. Because everything else just perpetuates your existence in the material world. Because everything else is material. Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha. He's the origin of everything, both material and spiritual energies. But spiritual energy is higher, as we all know. So interacting with spiritual energy through devotional service is better. You found the...
There's one reference here with two of them.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
You should engage yourself in the service of the servants of Krishna and always chant the holy name of Krishna. If you do these two things, you will very soon attain the shelter at Krishna's lotus feet. So you all are doing that very nicely, and I'm very grateful to be here in all of your association. You're very nice devotees and very inspiring for me. Thank you for your attendance. And Brahmatirtha Prabhu, a Prabhupada disciple, he's made this comment about management. He says it's not an easy job, but someone has to delegate it. And so I was delegated the task of giving Bhagavatam class this morning, and I appreciate you all coming. And if there are no further questions, we can chant Hare Krishna and take breakfast. Viresh.
So the last part of the purport we looked at today, like I'm kind of interpreting it a little differently.
Yeah.
Because where I'm coming from. Because like in the spiritual tradition in India, so there are siddhis which are looked down at across spiritual traditions, because what people do is just like they place dry firewood and they chant something and make fire happen. And people often get lost in the process. So when Prabhupada is saying that demonstration of some trifling yoga siddha, trifling, I just looked at the meaning, it says unimportant or something. That is not perfection. But he's saying that the factual example of perfection is a siddha who can live as long as he's like. So he's not really putting it down, which is why I love today's purport, because I usually see a lot of criticism, and quite rightly so, because all of that can distract us from these paths. But today's purport is kind of appreciating this, those subtle and higher yoga siddhis. So that's what I am as I'm reading it, as I'm interpreting it like. This is not to say that I disagree with what we've been discussing so far, but I just want to put this purport in a slightly different light than we are looking at it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, it can be very helpful to have this perfection of being able to live as long as you like. For example, Bhishma Dev, in the first canto we hear about how he had this perfection. And actually all devotees on that level of Bhishma Dev being a perfected soul, they basically have this ability. they're no longer really.
And here too, sorry, what's the name of this mystic yogi? Saru?
Maru.
Maru. He's staying until the end of age to kind of revive the son's dynasty. So he's doing Lord's work. He's not in this yoga siddha for himself or to experience some kind of exaggeration of his ego. So yoga siddhis are present within devotees too, but they're used towards Lord's service and towards his plan. Not that one should aim for it, but they naturally come to people when they are aligned with Krishna's vision for our world.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. That's excellent to understand. Yeah, Bhishma Dev, he was able to choose his time of death, and so he waited perfectly for the time that Krishna and the Pandavas came, and he had his audience with them, and he gave his really amazing prayers in the first canto. And yeah, all of this stuff is really important. Like we read all this genealogical stuff, but it's all leading up to the birth of Krishna. That's something I wanted to mention earlier. All of these names that we're reading and we may not be familiar with, and at least personally, I was trying to think what is the relevancy of these kinds of sections of the Bhagavatam, but it's all leading up to the birth of Krishna, which is the most amazing and auspicious thing that could ever possibly happen to a material universe like this one that we're in. So, yeah, it's exciting. All the dynasties, the different things that are being described here. Because Krishna's coming. We're just a couple chapters away from the 10th canto. Wow, that's a pretty big deal. Okay, anything else? Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.